The first child died on a Tuesday. Chief Takoda knelt beside the small body, his hand trembling as he closed the boy's eyes. 7 summers old. The fever had taken him in less than 3 days, burning through his small frame like wildfire through dry grass. Outside the lodge, a mother's wail split the morning air. Takoda rose slowly, his jaw tight. This was the 4th death in 2 weeks. 17 more lay suffering in the medicine lodge, their skin hot enough to scorch, their breathing shallow and desperate. The settlement's healer, old Kohana, had tried everything. Sacred herbs, steam treatments, prayers to the spirits. Nothing worked. Chief. His advisor Chaden appeared in the doorway, his face grim. 3 more collapsed this morning. The warriors guarding the eastern border. Strong men, all of them. Takoda pushed past them into the harsh Dakota sunlight. Around the settlement, normal life had ceased. No children played. No women sang while working. Only silence and the smell of sickness, thick as smoke. The white settlers, Takoda asked, still healthy. Their town shows no signs of illness. Chayton's voice carried bitter suspicion. Only we suffer. Takoda had considered this. The timing felt wrong, deliberate. The sickness had appeared days after traders from the fort visited, offering blankets and supplies. Gifts, they called them. Friendship. He didn't believe in friendship from men who wanted his land. Chief. Someone's coming! Takoda spun toward the scout's cry. On the ridge overlooking the settlement, a lone figure approached on horseback. White. A woman from the shape of her. She rose slowly, hands visible and empty. It's a trick, Chayton hissed, already reaching for his weapon. They send a woman to make us lower our guard. Takoda raised his hand. Wait. The woman descended the ridge carefully, stopping 50 yards from the settlement's edge. She dismounted, leaving her horse behind, and walked forward with her arms raised. She carried a leather bag across her shoulder. I mean no harm. Her voice rang clear across the distance. My name is Grace Holloway. I'm a healer. I know what's killing your people. Chayton spat into the dirt. Lies. But Takoda studied her. No soldiers followed. No weapons visible. Just a woman alone walking toward a camp of warriors who had every reason to kill her on sight. She stopped 20 yards away. 3 weeks ago, this same sickness destroyed a settlement 300 miles north. I watched 40 people die before I understood what it was. She lowered her arm slowly, carefully. I have medicine. Real medicine. It works. Why would you help us? Takoda called back. Grace met his eyes without flinching. Because I couldn't save them. Maybe I can save you. Takoda felt the weight of every sick child, every dying elder pressing against his chest. Trust meant risk, but doing nothing meant certain death. He made his choice. Bring her in. 4 warriors surrounded Grace as she walked into the settlement, their rifles trained on her back. She kept her hands visible, her movements slow and deliberate. Takoda watched her face as she passed the lodges where the sick lay groaning. She didn't flinch, didn't look away. Instead, her eyes hardened with recognition. This is it, she whispered. Same symptoms, same progression. Chayton stepped close enough for her to smell the tobacco on his breath. You bring sickness, then offer cure? Convenient. I brought nothing but medicine. Grace's voice stayed level. The sickness came from contaminated blankets. Traders brought them from an affected town up north. Did anyone here accept blankets as gifts recently? Takoda's stomach dropped. 2 weeks ago, the traders had seemed friendly, generous even. They'd offered wool blankets, thick and warm. His people had accepted, gratefully with winter approaching. We took blankets, he admitted. Grace closed her eyes briefly. Then I'm right. It's smallpox. The word hung in the air like poison. Takoda had heard stories from other tribes. Children dead in rows. The white man's plague. How do we know you're not one of them? Chait demanded. How do we know this isn't part of their plan? Grace turned to face him squarely. Because if I wanted you dead, I'd stay away and let nature finish the job. I'm here because I watched a 6-year-old girl die in my arms 3 weeks ago, and I swore I'd never let it happen again if I could stop it. Her voice cracked on the last words. Real pain. Real guilt. Takoda made a decision. Show me this medicine. Grace knelt slowly, opened her leather bag, and pulled out glass vials filled with clear liquid. It's called variolation. We take material from someone with a mild case and introduce it carefully into healthy people. Their bodies learn to fight it without getting fully sick. My father was a doctor. He taught me before he died. You want to give our healthy people the sickness? Chayton's hand moved to his knife. This is madness. It's science. Grace shot back, and it works. But for those already infected, I have treatments that can help. Cooling techniques, fluids, medicines to ease their suffering and give them strength to fight. A cry rose from the medicine lodge. Harsh, desperate. A child's voice. That's Winona, Takoda said, already moving. His daughter, 12 years old and strong as a young elk, until 3 days ago when the fever took her. Grace grabbed her bag and followed without being asked. Inside the lodge, the air was stifling, thick with the smell of sweat and sickness. 17 people lay on mats, their bodies twisted in pain. Winona thrashed in the corner, her skin covered in the red spots that marked the disease's progression. Grace knelt beside her, placed a hand on her forehead, and whispered something Takoda couldn't hear. Then she looked up at him with eyes that held both truth and terrible urgency. She's entering the critical stage. The next 12 hours will decide if she lives or dies. Grace pulled out her supplies. I need clean water, lots of it, cool gloves, and I need space to work. We should kill her now, Chayton said from the doorway, before she poisons our chief's mind further. But Takoda was watching Grace's hands move with practiced certainty, measuring liquid into a cup, supporting Winona's head as she helped her drink. He saw no hesitation, no deception, just skill born from experience. Leave us, he ordered. Che didn't move. Chief, I said leave. The warriors filed out reluctantly. Only Okohana remained, watching Grace with curious eyes. You've done this before, the healer said. It wasn't a question. Grace nodded, already moving to the next patient. Too many times. She worked quickly, efficiently, cooling fevered skin, administering measured doses from her vials, checking pulses and breathing. Some will die regardless. The sickness has progressed too far. But some can be saved if we act now. Takoda knelt beside his daughter, smoothing her sweat-soaked hair. What do you need? Trust, Grace said simply. And time. Outside, the sun began to set. Grace worked through the darkness, moving from patient to patient with Kohana's help. Takoda stayed with Winona, watching her chest rise and fall, each breath a small victory. Near midnight, one of the elders opened his eyes. Clear eyes, not clouded with fever. He asked for water in a steady voice. Grace's shoulders sagged with relief. It's working. By dawn, 3 more patients showed improvement. The fever broke in 2 of the warriors. An old woman sat up and asked for food. But outside, as the first light touched the eastern sky, Takoda saw smoke rising from the tree line. Too much smoke, too many fires. Chayton appeared, his face dark with anger. Someone set fires around the perimeter. 4 locations. Deliberate. Takoda stepped out of the lodge, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. Who? I don't know. But they're sending a message. Chayton glared back toward the medicine lodge. Or she is. Grace emerged, exhaustion written in every line of her face. She saw the smoke and her expression shifted to alarm. That's not me, she said quickly. I swear to you, a rifle shot cracked across the settlement, then another. Someone was attacking, and Takoda still didn't know who his real enemy was. The bullets came from the South Ridge. Takoda counted 3 shooters, maybe 4, firing wild shots meant to terrorize rather than kill. His warriors scattered to defensive positions while women pulled children into the lodges. Stay inside, Takoda ordered Grace, but she was already moving back into the medicine lodge where the sick lay vulnerable and exposed. Chayton appeared at his side, breathing hard. The fires are spreading. Someone doused the brush with oil. This was planned. How many attackers? Can't tell. They're staying hidden in the tree line. Chayton raised his rifle toward the ridge, but I bet my life they're connected to her. Takoda wanted to argue, but doubt crept in like cold water. Grace had arrived alone, conveniently equipped with medicine for a disease that appeared weeks after white traders visited. The timing felt orchestrated, yet he watched her work through the night. Watched her hands shake with exhaustion as she fought to save Winona. A woman didn't fake that kind of desperation. "Hold your fire," Takoda commanded. "Let them show themselves." The shooting stopped as suddenly as it started. Silence settled over the settlement, broken only by the crackling of distant flames and the moans of the sick. Takoda moved carefully toward the southern perimeter, using lodges for cover. He found the first message carved into a tree trunk. "Get rid of the woman, or we finish the job." The letters were rough, hasty. Fresh wood chips littered the ground beneath. Takoda touched the carving, his mind racing. Someone wanted Grace gone badly enough to attack during a crisis. But who? The fort? Other settlers? Or someone closer? He returned to find Chayton organizing fire control. The warriors had contained the blazes before they reached the settlement proper, but the damage was done. Fear had taken root deeper than any flame. "The people are frightened," Chayton said quietly. "They say she brought evil spirits. They want her removed. She's saving lives." "Is she?" Chayton's voice dropped lower. "Or is she just slow in the deaths she helped cause? My chief, I respect you, but you're not thinking clearly. Your daughter is sick. That woman has your judgment clouded." Takoda grabbed Chayton's arm hard enough to make him wince. "My judgment is the only thing keeping this settlement alive. Question it again, and you'll answer to the council." He released Chayton and stalked back to the medicine lodge. Inside, Grace worked beside Kohana, changing soaked cloths and checking patients. Winona lay still, her breathing steadier than before, but her skin still marked with angry red lesions. "The fires?" Grace asked without looking up. "Contained. Someone left a message. They want you gone." Grace's hands still. "Then I'll go. I won't be the reason your people suffer more. You'll stay." Takoda knelt beside his daughter. "Winona is improving. Others too. We need you. You need me alive, you mean?" "Dad, I'm just another problem solved." Grace finally met his eyes. "Chief Takoda, I'm not naive. Half your warriors would kill me right now if you gave the word. The attacks tonight? Someone's trying to force your hand. Then help me understand. Who benefits from your death?" Grace was quiet for a long moment. "The same people who benefit from yours. Think about it. This sickness didn't appear randomly. Those traitors brought contaminated blankets deliberately. Someone wanted your people weakened, vulnerable. Then I show up offering help, creating division. Now mysterious attackers want me removed, creating more chaos. It's all designed to tear your settlement apart from the inside." Takoda felt the truth of it settle in his bones. The fort, maybe, or independent settlers who want your land, or traders who profit from conflict. Grace returned to her work. "I've seen it before. White men have many ways of taking what they want. Disease is just the quietest." A sound from the doorway made them both turn. A young warrior named Mato stood there, his face pale with shock. "Chief, you need to see this. Now." Takoda followed him to the eastern edge of the settlement where the supply lodge stood. The door hung open, the interior ransacked, bags of grain slashed open. And in the center of the floor, a dead rat lying beside an empty vial. Grace picked up the vial carefully, sniffed it, and her face went rigid. "Arsenic." "What does that mean?" Mato asked. "It means someone tried to poison your water supply." Grace held up the vial. "This rat didn't die from disease. It was poisoned. Probably a test to see if the dosage was right before adding it to your drinking water." Takoda's blood ran cold. "When?" "Recently. The rat's still warm." Grace scanned the lodge. Whoever did this is still close. Maybe still inside the settlement. The implication hung between them like a blade. A traitor. Someone among his own people, working to destroy them from within. Chayton appeared in the doorway, saw the scene, and his face darkened. "What happened here?" Takoda explained quickly. Chayton's reaction was immediate and predictable. "This proves it. She's working with them. She discovers poison just as we start to trust her. It's theater, Chief. She's playing you." "I didn't put it here," Grace said evenly, "but I know who might have. Someone who wants me blamed for every bad thing that happens." Someone who benefits from keeping your chief suspicious and divided. She looked directly at Chayton as she said it. The warrior's hand moved to his weapon. You accuse me? I accuse whoever keeps pushing for my removal, despite evidence I'm helping. Whoever keeps stoking fear when unity is what you need. Grace stepped closer. Tell me, Chayton, where were you when the fire started? Leading the defense, as any loyal warrior would. After the fires were already burning, where were you before? Chayton's face twisted with rage. He lunged forward, but Takoda caught him, forcing him back. Enough, both of you. Takoda's voice cracked like thunder. We're being manipulated. Someone wants us fighting each other instead of finding the real enemy. A scream erupted from the medicine lodge. Terrified, Takoda ran, his heart hammering against his ribs. Inside, he found Kohana backing away from one of the patients, an elder named Hinto. The old man sat upright, his eyes wild and unfocused, white foam dripping from his lips. Poison, Kohana whispered. Someone poisoned him. Grace rushed to Hinto's side, forcing liquid down his throat to purge the toxin, but it was too late. The elder convulsed once, twice, then went still. In the silence that followed, Takoda heard footsteps running. He burst from the lodge in time to see a figure disappearing into the trees beyond the settlement's edge. Too far to identify, too fast to catch. But the message was clear. The enemy wasn't just outside the walls. They were already inside, and they were willing to kill to achieve their goal. Takoda assembled his most trusted warriors in the council lodge while the settlement locked down. No one in or out. The traitor was trapped inside, but so were they all. Hinto was murdered to create fear, Takoda said, pacing before the fire. Someone wants us to turn on Grace, to send her away or kill her. That same person tried to poison our water and set fires to make us vulnerable. Maddo spoke up. But why kill one of our own? That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense if you want chaos. Grace stood near the entrance, still guarded but now present at Takoda's insistence. A traitor working alone can only do so much damage, but a frightened, divided community will destroy itself. Chayton sat in the corner, his face unreadable. He hadn't spoken since Grace's accusation, but his eyes tracked their every movement. We need to find who ran from the medicine lodge, Takoda said. Someone saw something. Someone knows. A young woman named Kessie stepped forward hesitantly. Chief, I saw a man near the lodge before the elder died. He wore a blanket covering his face, but I recognized his walk. It was Nako. Silence fell like a stone. Nako was a trader who lived on the settlement's edge, a man who regularly traveled to the fort for supplies. He'd been the one to accept the blankets from the white traders, the one who distributed them among the people. Where is he now? Takoda demanded. Gone. His lodge is empty. His horse is missing. Takoda's hands clenched into fists. Nako had seemed loyal, helpful even. But looking back, every tragedy traced back to him. The blankets, the supplies, access to the water stores. He'd had opportunity for everything. He's heading to the fort, Grace said quietly, to report that his mission failed. They'll regroup, send more men. You need to stop him before he gets there. Chayton finally spoke. And how do you know their plans so well, white woman? Unless you're part of them. Because I've seen this pattern before. Grace's voice was still. 3 settlements north of here, all weakened by disease, all attacked within days by settlers claiming the land was abandoned. It's a strategy. Infect, divide, conquer. I didn't believe it was deliberate until I saw it happen twice. Now I'm certain. Takoda made a decision. Maddo, take 3 warriors. Track Nako. Bring him back alive if possible. We need answers. Mato nodded and disappeared into the night with his chosen men. The rest of you, search every lodge. If Nako had help, we find him. Takoda turned to Chayton. You're in command of the defense. Trust no one completely. Chayton stood, his jaw tight. What will you do? Get answers from someone who might actually have them. Takoda looked at Grace. You said you saw this before. Tell me everything. Names, places, who gave the orders. They moved to a smaller lodge where they could speak privately. Grace set down her medical bag and met his eyes with exhaustion and something deeper. Guilt. The first settlement was called Red Creek, 50 people, A trader named Sullivan brought blankets during a harsh winter. Within 2 weeks, half were dead. I was traveling through, helping where I could. My father had just died, and I was carrying his medical books, his supplies. I tried everything, but I didn't understand what I was fighting. What happened to the survivors? Settlers moved in 3 days after the last death, claimed the land was cursed, abandoned. No one questioned it. Grace's voice hardened. The second settlement was riverbed. Same pattern, same trader. That's when I started tracking Sullivan, following his route. He led me here. Where is this Sullivan now? Dead. I found his body 2 days ago, shot in the back. Someone didn't want him talking. Grace pulled a folded paper from her bag, but I found this in a saddlebag, a letter with instructions. Coordinates it. Payment schedules. Takoda unfolded the letter. The handwriting was precise, educated, military. He couldn't read English well, but he recognized the seal at the bottom. Fort Davidson, the same fort 5 miles south. This is signed by someone named Colonel Harrison. Grace translated. He's ordering Sullivan to distribute contaminated materials to native settlements along the river. The letter promises payment upon confirmation of success. Takoda's vision blurred with rage. They planned this. All of it. They planned more than disease. Grace pointed to another line. Once the settlements are weakened, Harrison is supposed to send troops to investigate. They'll find you vulnerable, defenseless. Then they'll claim you're a threat and wipe out anyone who remains. The land gets seized legally because you're labeled hostile. Except I brought in a white woman to help save us. Takoda saw it now. That complicated their plan. Exactly. That's why Nako tried so hard to turn your people against me. Why? Someone attacked tonight. I'm a witness who knows too much. If I leave or die, there's no evidence of the conspiracy. Just another settlement that failed to disease and violence. Dakota stared at the letter, his mind racing through options. If Nako reached the fort, Harrison would know his plan had been exposed. He'd accelerate the attack, strike before Takoda could prepare or spread word to other tribes. We need proof, he said. Something that can't be denied. Something that proves Harrison's guilt. The medicine he's using is military grade. Specific compounds only available at the fort. Grace stood. If we could get into their medical supply room, I could identify the exact materials used in the contamination. Match them to what infected your people. You're suggesting we infiltrate a military fort. I'm suggesting we get the evidence that saves your people and exposes the truth. Grace's eyes held steady determination. Harrison thinks you're too weak to fight back. He thinks I'm just a woman who'll run at the first sign of danger. We proven wrong. The lodge door burst open. Mato stood there, chest heaving, blood on his sleeve. Chief, we found Nako. He fought back. We had to kill him. Mato's face was grim. But before he died, he talked. He said soldiers are already on their way. Harrison sent them hours ago when Nako failed to report in. They'll be here by dawn. Takoda felt time compress around him. Dawn was 3 hours away. His people were still sick, still vulnerable. Half his warriors were weakened from disease or caring for the ill. They couldn't withstand a full military assault. How many soldiers? Nako said 20, maybe more. Led by a lieutenant named Kane. Grace's face went pale. Marcus Kane. You know him. He was there at River Bend. Young, idealistic. He looked sick when I saw what happened to those people. Grace grabbed Takoda's arm. If it's the same man, there might be a chance. He didn't agree with what Harrison was doing. I saw it in his face. Then, he's our way in. Takoda made the hardest decision of his life. We can't fight them head on, but we can make them question their orders. We go to the fort, confront Kane, show him the evidence. If he's truly conflicted, he might turn against Harrison. And if he doesn't, Shaden had entered silently, listening. For once, his voice held no accusation, only grim practicality. Then we died trying. Takoda looked at his advisor. I need you here. Protect Winona. Protect everyone who can't fight. If I don't return by noon, take the healthy ones and run north to the Cheyenne settlements. Tell them what happened here. Shaden clasped his arm. My chief, I was wrong about her. About all of this, I let my grief blind me. His voice cracked slightly. My sister died at white men's hands. I saw enemies everywhere. I'm sorry. Save your apologies for when we survived this. Takoda turned to Grace. Can you ride? Like the wind. Then we leave now. 3 hours to reach the fort, gather evidence, and convince the soldier to betray his commanding officer. Takoda grabbed his rifle and checked his ammunition. Impossible odds. Just how I preferred him. Grace managed a tired smile. Your daughter is strong. She'll pull through. I made sure of it. I know. That's why I trust you now. Takoda moved toward the door. Let's go make some enemies regret underestimating us. Outside, the pre-dawn darkness pressed close. Somewhere in that darkness, soldiers marched toward the settlement with orders to kill. And somewhere ahead, a fort held the evidence that could change everything. Takoda and Grace rode into the night, racing against time itself. The final battle was coming, and survival demanded the impossible. They reached Fort Davison as the first gray light touched the eastern horizon. The fort sat on a hill overlooking the river, wooden walls reinforced with earthworks, guard towers at each corner. Takoda counted 8 soldiers visible on the walls. More would be inside, sleeping or preparing for the march to his settlement. The medical supply room is in the southwest corner, Grace whispered from their position in the tree line. My father treated soldiers here once. I remember the layout. Guards, 2 at the main gate, 1 patrolling the interior courtyard. The supply room might have a lock, but no dedicated guard. Grace studied the fort with professional precision. We needed distraction to get past the gate. Takoda had already considered this. I'll create one. You get inside, find the evidence, and get out. If I'm not at the horses in 20 minutes, leave without me. That's suicide. That's leadership. Takoda checked his knife, left his rifle behind. Too conspicuous. The soldiers march into my settlement expect to find us weak and unprepared. Instead, they'll find Chaitin ready with every warrior we have. But that only works if we prove Harrison gave illegal orders. Without proof, we're just savages attacking white soldiers. Grace grabbed his wrist. Takoda, you don't have to do this alone. Yes, I do. You're the only one who can identify the contaminated materials. I'm the one they won't expect to walk through their front gate. He managed a grim smile. Besides, I speak enough English to cause problems. He moved before she could argue, circling toward the fort's main entrance. The guards were young, barely old enough to grow full beards. They snapped to attention as Takoda emerged from the shadows, hands raised and empty. I need to speak with Lieutenant Kane, Takoda said clearly. Now. The guards raised their rifles. Chief, you need to turn around and leave. This is military property. I know what this is. I also know Kane is leading men to attack my settlement at dawn. Takoda stepped closer, gambling everything on his read of Kane's character. I'm here to give him a chance to avoid making the biggest mistake of his life. The guards exchanged uncertain glances. One of them called over his shoulder, Corporal, we got a situation here. Perfect. More soldiers meant more chaos, more distraction. Takoda kept talking, kept their attention focused on him, while Grace slipped through the shadows toward the southwest wall. A heavy-set corporal emerged from the gatehouse. What's going on? This Indian says he needs to talk to Lieutenant Kane. At this hour? The corporal squinted at Takoda. You're Chief Takoda. I've seen you at the trading post. Then you know I don't make social calls. Takoda lowered his hands slowly. Your commanding officer ordered my people poisoned with disease blankets. He sent the trader to sabotage our water supply and create chaos. Now he's sending Kane to finish the job. I'm here to stop a massacre. The corporal's face hardened. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Check your medical supplies. Someone's been taking specific materials. Ask why Sullivan the trader was murdered 2 days ago. Ask why Kane received marching orders in the middle of the night. I don't have to ask anything. The corporal signaled to the guards. Arrest him. Takoda didn't resist as they grabbed his arms. This was what he wanted. Get inside the fort, cause enough commotion to keep all eyes on him. Give Grace the time she needed. They dragged him through the gate into the central courtyard. Soldiers emerged from barracks drawn by the disturbance. Takoda counted at least 15 men, all armed. The odds were worse than he thought. Lock him in the stockade, the corporal ordered. I'll wake the colonel. No need. A voice rang from the officers' quarters. Colonel Harrison emerged, still fastening his uniform jacket. He was older than Takoda expected. Gray-haired but hard-muscled. His eyes held no warmth, only calculation. Chief Takoda. How unexpected. Is it? Takoda met his gaze without flinching. You sent 20 men to wipe out my settlement. Did you think I'd wait quietly to die? Harrison descended the steps with measured calm. I sent men to investigate reports of violence and instability. Entirely routine. You sent them to finish what your poison blanket started. Careful, Chief. Accusations like that sound like the ravings of a desperate man. Harrison circled him slowly. Your people are dying from disease. Tragic, but hardly my responsibility. If you're looking for someone to blame, perhaps look at your own primitive medicine. Takoda forced a laugh. Primitive? A white woman showed up with real medicine and saved half my people already. Your plan failed, Harrison. Now I'm here to make sure everyone knows what you did. Harrison's expression flickered. Just for a moment, but Takoda saw it. Fear. Where's this white woman now? Harrison asked quietly. Far from here, spreading word to every tribe within 100 miles about your conspiracy. Takoda was gambling again, selling a lie to buy Grace more time. By noon, you'll have war parties from 6 different nations descending on this fort, all because you couldn't leave us alone. Sir, one of the soldiers stepped forward. If there's any truth to this, there isn't. Harrison's voice cut like a blade. Chief Takoda is attempting to manipulate us with fiction. Take him to the stockade. At dawn, we'll proceed with our mission as planned. They hauled Takoda toward a small wooden structure on the east side of the courtyard. He scanned for Grace, saw no sign. Good. She was still hidden, still working. Then he heard the scream. A soldier's shout erupted from the southwest corner. Intruder, southwest wall. Harrison spun. Who? A woman, sir. She was in the supply room. Takoda's blood turned to ice. They'd found her. Soldiers rushed toward the supply room. Takoda threw his weight sideways, breaking free from the guard on his left. He grabbed the man's rifle, clubbed him hard enough to drop him, and fired a shot into the air. The courtyard exploded into chaos. Soldiers scattered, unsure where the threat was coming from. Harrison was shouting orders. Someone rang the alarm bell. Takoda ran toward the southwest corner, using the confusion as cover. He rounded the building and found Grace pressed against the wall, 3 soldiers closing in. She held a leather satchel clutched to her chest. Got it, she yelled. Takoda fired twice, aiming high to scatter the soldiers rather than kill. It bought them seconds. Grace ran to him, and together they sprinted for the wall. Too high to climb. No time to reach the gate. A door burst open to their left. Lieutenant Marcus Kane stood there, his face pale but his eyes clear. This way. Quickly. Takoda hesitated for half a heartbeat. Trust or die. He chose trust. They plunged through the door into a storage corridor. Kane slammed it behind them and threw the bolt. I knew Harrison was dirty, but I didn't know how deep it went. Kane was breathing hard. I found his private correspondence an hour ago. Orders from territorial officials to clear native settlements by any means necessary. Financial incentives. Land grants. You're helping us? Grace asked. I'm helping justice. Kane pushed them toward a back exit. Take it. I'll delay pursuit. Why? Takoda demanded. Why turn on your own people? Kane met his eyes. Because they stopped being my people the moment they decided murder was policy. He opened the exit door.
Go.
Now, when you expose this, make sure you mention there were soldiers who refused to follow illegal orders. They burst into the pre-dawn darkness. Behind them, Harrison's voice echoed across the fort, ordering a full lockdown. Soldiers poured into the courtyard. Takoda and Grace ran for the north gate, found 2 horses already saddled and waiting. Kane had planned this. They rode hard, the satchel of evidence secured. Hoofbeats thunder in the growing light. Behind them, the fort erupted with activity. Ahead, Takoda's settlement waited, unaware that soldiers were already marching. Grace pulled alongside him. We have the proof. Now what? Now we stop a war. Takoda pushed his horse faster. and pray we're not too late. The sun broke over the horizon, painting the sky blood red, and in the distance, gunfire echoed. The battle had already begun. Smoke rose from the settlement like dark fingers clawing at the dawn sky. Takoda pushed his horse to the breaking point, Grace riding hard beside him. The gunfire grew louder with each stride, not the sporadic shots of a skirmish, but sustained volleys, a full assault. They crested the final ridge and saw the nightmare below. Harrison's soldiers had surrounded the settlement on 3 sides, using the river as a natural barrier on the 4th. They positioned themselves behind hastily constructed barriers, firing in coordinated waves. Chayton's warriors fought back desperately, using lodges for cover, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Bodies lay scattered in the open ground between the 2 forces. Too many bodies. "We're too late," Grace whispered. Women and children evacuating through a concealed path along the riverbank, protected by a handful of warriors. Chayton was buying them time. He's holding the line long enough for the vulnerable to escape. We need to end this before he runs out of ammunition or men. How? Harrison has 20 soldiers, maybe more. Takoda pulled out the satchel of evidence. We give them a reason to stop fighting. They rolled down the ridge in full view, deliberately exposed. A soldier spotted them and raised his rifle, but Takoda held up his hands, the satchel clearly visible. "Hold your fire," he shouted. "I have evidence of Colonel Harrison's crimes. Any man who shoots me becomes part of his conspiracy." The firing slowed, then stopped. Confusion rippled through the soldiers' line. From the settlement, Chayton's warriors held their positions, watching. Harrison emerged from behind his command post, his face twisted with rage. "Chief Takoda, how unfortunate. Lieutenant Kane let you escape, I assume. I'll deal with them later. You won't deal with anyone." Takoda dismounted, keeping his movements slow and visible. Grace followed, her medical bag in one hand, the satchel in the other. "Your plan is finished, Harrison. We have your letters, your orders, proof that you deliberately infected my people with diseased blankets as part of a land seizure scheme." The ravings of a desperate savage. Harrison addressed his men. "Don't listen to his lies. These people are violent, unstable. They murdered a white trader and attacked our fort. We're here to restore order. We're here to commit murder." The voice came from the soldiers' ranks. A young private stepped forward, his rifle lowered. "Sir, I didn't sign up to slaughter sick people. If what he's saying is true, it's not true. Private, return to your position." "Let them see the evidence," Takoda challenged. "If I'm lying, shoot me. If I'm telling the truth, you're following the legal orders." Harrison's hand moved to his sidearm. "I say return to position. Show them," Grace shouted. She opened a satchel, pulled out Harrison's letters, the medical manifest showing contaminated materials distributed deliberately. "These are your commander's orders. Signed documents proving he orchestrated this massacre for financial gain." The soldiers stirred. Several lowered their weapons, moving closer to see the papers. Harrison's control was slipping. Then hoofbeats thundered from the north. Lieutenant Kane arrived with 12 soldiers, all wearing grim expressions. They positioned themselves between Harrison's forces and the settlement. "Colonel Harrison," Kane's voice rang clear and hard. "You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit genocide, falsification of military orders, and murder. Order your men to stand down." Harrison's face went purple with fury. "You dare? I am your commanding officer. You were my commanding officer. Now you're a criminal." Kane dismounted, hand on his sidearm. "I've sent riders to Territorial Command with copies of your correspondence. Witnesses are already giving statements." "It's over, sir." For a long moment, Harrison stood frozen. Then his hand moved fast, drawing his pistol. Takoda was faster. He threw his knife with deadly precision. It struck Harrison's gun hand, sending the weapon spinning into the dirt. Harrison screamed, clutching his bleeding hand. Kane's soldiers moved in, disarming Harrison and binding his hands. The colonel fought and cursed, but it was futile. The remaining soldiers lowered their weapons, the fight draining out of them. Some looked relieved, others ashamed. All looked lost. "What about us?" one soldier asked Kane. "We were following orders." Kane's expression was hard but fair. "You'll testify about what you saw and heard." Some of you knew this was wrong and went along anyway. You'll answer for that. Others truly believed you were restoring order. Intent matters, but so does responsibility. Takoda walked toward the settlement, where Chayton emerged cautiously, his rifle still ready. "Winona," Takoda asked, afraid of the answer. "Fighting through." Grace's medicine worked. Chayton's voice was rough with emotion. "We lost 4 warriors in the fighting, 3 more wounded. But the sick are recovering. The children are safe." Relief crashed through Takoda like a wave. He turned to find Grace already moving toward the medicine lodge, her healer's instinct pulling her to where she was needed most. "Wait," he called. She stopped, turned. "Thank you," Takoda said simply. "You risked everything for people you didn't know. You could have walked away." Grace's tired face softened. "I told you I couldn't save them before, but I saved you. That matters." She disappeared into the lodge. Takoda heard her voice immediately, calm and authoritative, checking on patients, organizing care. Kane approached, his expression weary. "Chief Takoda, I need to ask, will your people seek vengeance? After everything Harrison did, I wouldn't blame you." Takoda looked at his settlement, damaged but standing, wounded but healing. His daughter alive, his people surviving. "We'll seek justice," he said, "not vengeance. There's a difference. Then we'll face it together." Kane extended his hand. "I can't undo what was done to your people, but I can make sure Harrison and everyone involved answers for their crimes. I give you my word." Takoda studied the younger man's face. He saw genuine remorse, genuine determination. He clasped Kane's hand. "Your word is accepted. But Kane, if anyone tries this again, word or not, we'll burn their world down." Kane nodded slowly, understood, and deserved. The sun climbed higher, warming the blood-soaked earth. Soldiers helped carry wounded warriors to the medicine lodge. Warriors shared water with exhausted soldiers. The impossible peace Takoda had fought for began to take fragile shape. Inside the lodge, he found Winona sitting up, her fever broken, her eyes clear. She reached for him with shaking hands. "Father, you came back. Always." He held her carefully, feeling her heartbeat strong against his chest. "Always." Grace worked beside Kohana, treating soldier and warrior alike without distinction. When she caught Takoda's eye, she smiled, exhausted, bloodstained, but genuinely at peace. Chayton entered, his face no longer hard with suspicion but open with respect. "Chief, the people want to hold a council. They want to hear everything. They want to decide together what comes next. Then we'll tell him the truth." Takoda stood, his daughter's hand still in his. All of it, the conspiracy, the betrayal, the choice we made to trust when trust seemed impossible. He looked at Grace, and the woman who proved that enemies can become allies when survival demands it. That evening, as fires burned and stories were shared, Takoda stood before his people. He told them everything, the darkness they survived, and the uncertain future they faced. When he finished, silence held for a long moment. Then Kohana spoke, his old voice carrying weight. "We were tested. We survived. Not because we were strongest, but because we chose to trust when it mattered most. That is a victory no army can take from us." The people murmured agreement. Slowly, painfully, hope rekindled. Grace sat with Winona, teaching her how to change bandages, sharing stories of medicine and healing. The girl listened with fierce attention, her eyes bright with purpose. Takoda watched them and felt something shift in his chest. Not forgiveness for what had been done, not forgetting the blood spilled, but possibility. The slim, fragile possibility that different paths existed beyond endless cycles of hatred and revenge. Kane's riders returned 3 days later with news. Harrison had been formally charged. Other conspirators were being investigated. The territorial governor had ordered a full inquiry into land seizure practices. But it wasn't justice yet. But it was the beginning. Grace stayed for 2 weeks, ensuring every patient fully recovered. When she finally prepared to leave, half the settlement gathered to see her off. "Will you return?" Winona asked. Grace knelt to meet the girl's eyes. "If you need me, I'll come. And if you study hard, maybe one day you'll be the one others come to for healing." Winona nodded solemnly. I will. Takoda walked Grace to her horse. Where will you go? Wherever I'm needed. There are other settlements, other people suffering. She swung into the saddle. But I'll remember this place. I'll remember that sometimes, against impossible odds, the right choice wins. Sometimes, Takoda agreed. Not always, but sometimes is enough to keep fighting for. Grace rode north as the sun set, her silhouette strong against the fading light. Takoda watched until she disappeared, then turned back to his settlement. Smoke rose from cooking fires. Children played, their laughter bright in the cooling air. Warriors stood watch, but their shoulders had relaxed from constant vigilance. In the medicine lodge, Kohana taught Winona the names of healing herbs. Half the town had nearly died, but the half that survived stood stronger, wiser, bound by shared trauma and shared triumph. Takoda walked to the center of the settlement, where new lodges were being constructed to replace those damaged in the battle. The sound of hammers and voices blended into something that sounded like hope. The war wasn't over. The struggle for survival continued. But they'd proven something vital, that in darkness, light could still break through. That trust, however fragile, could bridge even the widest divide, and that sometimes the enemy who brought the cure became the ally who saved them all.